There's a moment when you realize some wounds never heal. For me, that moment came at 32 as I stood at my grandmother's grave. The only person who had ever truly loved me was gone, and the woman who gave birth to me and abandoned me stood across the cemetery, not even looking in my direction. I hadn't seen my mother in years. Not since she decided my brother was worth raising, but I wasn't. The rain fell in sheets that day, soaking through my black dress as I watched them lower Grandma Brooke's casket into the ground. My mother, Pamela, stood under an umbrella with her perfect family, her husband Charlie and their son Jason, my replacement and the golden child worthy of her love. She didn't cry. Not really. She just dabbed at her eyes occasionally for show. When it was over, she turned and walked away without a word to me, just like she had 22 years ago when I was 10. I remained rooted to the spot, alone with the fresh mound of dirt that covered the only parent I'd ever really had. "I don't know how to do this without you, Grandma," I whispered to the grave. "I was born from a brief affair and I was an inconvenience my mother never wanted. When I was 10, she married my stepfather Charlie and gave birth to their perfect son Jason. Suddenly, I became nothing more than a reminder of her past mistake. I still remember the day she told me I wouldn't be living with them anymore. "Rebecca, come here," she called from the kitchen table where she sat with Grandma Brooke. I walked in, hope blooming in my chest. "Yes, Mom?" I asked. She rarely spoke directly to me anymore. Her eyes were cold and distant. "You're going to live with Grandma now." The words didn't make sense at first. "Like, for the weekend?" "No," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Permanently. Grandma's going to take care of you from now on." I looked at Grandma, whose face was tight with anger and grief. "But why? Did I do something wrong?" "Don't make this harder than it has to be," my mother snapped. "I have a real family now. You're just in the way." Grandma's hand slammed the table. "Enough, Pamela. She's a child, for God's sake." "Your child." My mother shrugged. "A mistake I've paid for long enough. Either you take her, or I'll find someone who will." I stood there, tears streaming down my face, invisible to the woman who gave birth to me. "Pack your things, sweetheart," Grandma said gently, wrapping her arms around me. "We'll make this work, I promise." Grandma's house became my sanctuary. A place where I was wanted and where someone's eyes lit up when I walked into the room. She hung my artwork on the fridge, helped with my homework, and tucked me in every night. Still, the wound of my mother's rejection festered. "Why doesn't she want me?" I asked one night as Grandma brushed my hair before bed. Her hands paused. "Oh, Becca. Some people aren't capable of the love they should give. It's not your fault, honey. Never think it's your fault. But she loves Jason." Grandma resumed brushing, each stroke gentle and soothing. "Your mother is broken in ways I couldn't fix. I tried, God knows I tried. But she's always run from her mistakes instead of facing them. So I'm a mistake? No, honey. You are a gift. The best thing that ever happened to me. Your mother just can't see past her own selfishness to recognize what she's throwing away." I leaned into her embrace, breathing in the scent of lavender that clung to her clothes. "Will you ever leave me too, Grandma?" I whispered. "Never," she said fiercely. "As long as there's breath in my body, you will always have a home with me. Promise?" "I promise." When I was 11, Grandma insisted we visit for a family dinner. She thought it was important to maintain some connection, however tenuous. Deep down, I hoped my mother realized what she'd thrown away and welcomed me back with open arms. Walking in, I saw her doting over my brother, laughing and proud, like she had never abandoned me. 1-year-old Jason sat in a high chair, mashed potatoes smeared across his chubby face. My mother wiped it away with such tenderness it made my chest ache. She barely glanced at me. "Hey, Mom," I said, forcing a smile. She frowned. Oh. You're here. My chest tightened, but I swallowed the hurt and reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small, slightly crumpled handmade card. I had spent hours on it, carefully folding the paper, writing "I love you, Mom" in my neatest handwriting on the front. Inside, I had drawn a picture of our family, me, my mother, my stepfather, my baby brother, and my grandmother. I had colored it with the few markers I had, making sure to give everyone a smile. Because that's how I wanted us to be, a real, happy family. With hopeful eyes, I extended it toward her. I made this for you. She barely glanced at it before passing it to my brother. Here, honey. Something for you. I froze. That gift wasn't for him. It was from me to my mother. I got that for you. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, what would I need it for? I have everything I want. Everything. Except me. Years of neglect hung between us. My grandmother shot me a sympathetic glance, but I forced a smile. I wouldn't let them see me break. Dinner's ready, Charlie called from the dining room, oblivious to the moment we're choosing to ignore it. Come on, my mother said, lifting Jason from his high chair. The roast will get cold. That was the last time I ever wanted to see my mother. After that night, I stopped trying. And she didn't seem to care. Not long after, she moved to another city and only called my grandmother occasionally. But she never called me. Years passed. I grew up, became a successful woman, and built a life of my own. I went to college on scholarships, got a job in marketing, and bought a small house near Grandma's cottage. I dated, sometimes seriously, but relationships were hard. Trust didn't come easily when my own mother couldn't love me. Grandma was my rock through everything. She never missed a graduation, a birthday, or a milestone. She hung my college diploma next to her achievements. She made sure I knew I belonged. But time is relentless. My grandmother, my true parent, grew older too. Her hands became gnarled with arthritis, her steps slower, and her memory was sometimes foggy. Remember when you tried to teach me to bake cookies and we set off the smoke alarm? I asked one afternoon as we walked in her beloved garden. She laughed, the sound still musical despite her 78 years. The neighbors thought the house was on fire. That fireman was so handsome, though. I almost didn't mind the embarrassment. You flirted with him shamelessly, I teased. Life's too short not to flirt with handsome firemen, Rebecca. She patted my hand. Promise me something? Anything. When I'm gone, don't waste time on bitterness. Your mother made her choice, and it was the wrong one. But don't let that choice define your life. I felt a chill despite the summer heat. You're not going anywhere. She smiled sadly. We all go somewhere eventually, honey. Just promise me you'll live fully. That's all I've ever wanted for you. I promise, I whispered, resting my head on her shoulder like I had countless times before. 3 months later, she was gone. A stroke in her sleep. Peaceful and a blessing, really, the doctor said. But it didn't feel like a blessing to me. I was 32 when I buried her. My mother arrived with her family, but I never really saw any remorse in her eyes. She didn't even look at me during the service. The house felt empty without Grandma. I wandered from room to room, touching her things, the crocheted blanket on the couch, the collection of ceramic birds on the mantel, and the worn cookbook in the kitchen with her handwritten notes in the margins. God, I missed her so much. Just a few days after the funeral, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, I froze. It was my mother. She looked older, gray threading through her dark hair, and lines around her eyes and mouth that hadn't been there before. But her eyes were the same, distant and calculating. Please, she whispered, gripping her purse with white-knuckled hands. I just need to talk to you. Every instinct in me screamed to shut the door and walk away. But something in her tone, something almost defeated, made me pause. I crossed my arms. Talk. She exhaled, looking down before meeting my gaze. Your brother knows about you. My breath hitched. What do you mean? Before she passed, your grandmother sent him a message. And told him everything. I swallowed hard. He was too young to remember you, Rebecca. And I didn't let your grandmother talk about you to him. I told her if she did, she'd never see him again. My stomach churned. It was worse than I imagined. My mother not only abandoned me, she erased me. She must have seen the horror on my face because she rushed to explain. I thought I was doing the right thing. You had your grandmother, and I had my family. You had a family, I cut in. You decided I wasn't part of it. Her lip trembled. He won't speak to me, not since he read the message last night. His phone fell in the water and had been switched off for days, and he's just gotten the message from Grandma after turning it on last night. He's mad at me for hiding you from him. I need you to talk to him. Tell him I'm not a monster. I let out a hollow laugh. Not a monster? You abandoned your daughter at 10, pretended she didn't exist, and threatened your own mother just to keep your secret. What would make you a monster, then? Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't move me. I had shed enough tears for her years ago. Still, despite everything, I hesitated. Not for her, but for my brother. I spent my life believing he had forgotten me. But he never had the chance to know me at all. He was just a child, manipulated by a woman who only saw me as an obstacle. I'll take his number, I said flatly. My mother exhaled in relief, but her face fell when she realized what I meant. I wasn't calling for her. I was calling for him. You can give him my number, I clarified. If he wants to talk to me, that's his choice. And if he doesn't want to talk to you? I shrugged. That's his choice too. Rebecca, please. Goodbye, Mom, I said, and slowly closed the door. I met Jason a week later at a quiet cafe across town, my heart pounding as I saw him walk in. He was tall, with dark hair like our mother's, but his eyes were kind. He looked nervous, but when he spotted me, something in his expression softened. I'm so sorry, were the first words out of his mouth. I stared at him. You don't have to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. But I. He swallowed hard. I didn't know. She never told me. I only found out because of Grandma's message. I can't believe she did that to you. I studied his face, searching for any sign of dishonesty. But there was none. He was just a kid when it happened. He hadn't chosen this. You're nothing like her, Jason. His shoulders sagged in relief. I've been so angry since I found out. It's like everything I thought I knew about Mom was a lie. How did you find out exactly? Jason ran a hand through his hair. I got this email from Grandma. It had pictures of you, stories about you, things Mom never told me. And a letter explaining everything. She was always clever, I said, a sad smile tugging at my lips. Even from beyond the grave, she was looking out for us. She wrote that she promised not to tell me while she was alive because she was afraid Mom would cut me off from her completely. He shook his head. I can't imagine being forced to make that choice. It's so cruel. That's who Mom is, I said. She makes everything a transaction. He nodded, then pulled out his phone. I have the pictures Grandma sent, if you want to see them. We spent the next hour looking at photos of a life intersected but separate. Grandma had documented everything for him, creating a bridge across the chasm our mother had dug between us. I always wanted a sibling, Jason said quietly. I used to beg for a brother or sister. Mom always said she couldn't have more children after me. Another lie. You know, I said, pushing my empty coffee cup aside, we can't change the past. But we can decide what happens next. He nodded, a tentative smile crossing his face. I'd like to know my sister, if that's okay with you. For the first time in over 2 decades, I let myself feel something I never thought I'd have again, a connection to family that wasn't built on obligation or pity. I'd like that, I said. I'd like that very much. Over the next few weeks, we talked more. I told him about my life, about how Grandma raised me, and how I spent years wondering if he ever thought of me. And he told me about our mother. About how she had always been controlling, suffocating, and never allowed him to make his own choices. We met at a park on a crisp autumn day, walking along paths covered in fallen leaves. Mom's been calling me non-stop, he said. Showing up at my apartment. She even contacted my work. That sounds like her. When she wants something, she doesn't stop. She always acted like the perfect mom, Rebecca. I thought she was just overprotective, but now I realize, she's just selfish. Everything has always been about her image, her comfort, and her needs. Has she always been like that with you? He kicked at a pile of leaves. Yeah, I guess so. I just didn't see it clearly until now. Nothing I did was ever quite good enough unless it made her look good too. We both knew, at that moment, that neither of us owed her anything. Weeks passed. I built a relationship with my brother, the one thing Mom had tried to keep from me. And she kept calling, sent messages, and even showed up at my door again. But this time, when she knocked, I didn't answer. She had made her choice 22 years ago. And now, I had made mine. On what would have been Grandma's birthday, Jason and I met at her grave. We placed her favorite yellow daisies and stood in silence. I wish I'd known her better, Jason said. Really known her. She would have loved you, I told him. Not because you're perfect, but because you're you. As we walked back to our cars, something caught my eye across the cemetery. A familiar figure stood watching us. Our mother. Jason saw her too and tensed beside me. We don't have to talk to her, I said. He shook his head. No, we don't. We got into our cars and drove away, leaving her standing alone among the gravestones. In the end, family isn't always who gives birth to you. Sometimes it's who sees you and chooses to stay. Grandma chose me. And in her final act of love, she gave me back the brother I never knew. Some wounds never heal completely. But around the scars, new life can still grow. Write in the comments what would you have done and subscribe to our channel D-Dam Mix.